Well, before we leave today, I wanted you to meet Norma Constein. And Norma, it looks like you've dried a lot of grains. Here we've got our #1 grain crop here in Oklahoma, some wheat, some oats in a bundle. Now, how are you going to use these?
Well, right here for one is a wreath that I've made up. This took probably about 50 or so heads of wheat. And
how'd you attach that to the...
Okay, on the back I just used a clothes hanger and then used the florist tape and wrapped each one individually onto that.
That's really nice. Now, what's this?
That's annual buckwheat, and it sure makes
That
up
is
pretty.
pretty. Now, that's something they could grow in their garden also?
Well, mostly you find that along the roadside.
Okay,
That
just
likes
a wild...
real sandy soil.
Okay, so there are a lot of natural things that you could harvest this time of year and decorate around your home. Now, this is really neat.
Okay, these are chili peppers. These are really hot, but we figured a way of making a pepper rack to dry them.
Okay, and that you've
Nice
got a little
and bright.
raffia attached to that. That's very decorative, very pretty. Hang that on the porch, and even if you live right in town, you could have your place look like a little farmhouse. Well, now, what is this?
That I have thoroughly loved. This is Sweet Annie Wormwood, and it smells so good.
Also called Wormwood. Oh, nice smell. You'd like this. It's sort of a sweet, fruity smell.
Okay, this I dried outside, and it's turned kind of brown and yellow. This I've gotten ready to make up another wreath, and I dried this in the house, and it stayed nice and green.
I guess you could hang these up in the kitchen, maybe, or maybe up in an attic somewhere, and they'll dry nicely. Just bundle them together. This is just hung up with paper clips. It's really very simple, and give you a lot of good materials for crafts. And down here, you've got one of my favorite flowers. This is one of the straw everlastings.
And when you pick it, it looks like that.
Yeah, this is gomphrena, and it's a nice little annual to grow, and they are a straw textured flower, so they stay quite dry.
And the color stays good. It stays like that.
That's a
It
great
doesn't
color.
fade.
It almost looks like clover blossoms. So there are a lot of things that you can grow around the house that don't take much effort. Now, the wheat and the oats, you might think that you've got to live on a farm or have access to one to grow this, but actually that's not true at all. We tell you to sow rye in the fall, also to sow wheat in the garden as a cover crop, and if you want to let it head out and have some for making wreaths and such, just leave one row when you turn your wheat under in the spring. Leave one row and allow it to go to head in June. You can cut it and harvest it, bundle it up.
Be sure when you do that, when you harvest it, make sure that it's still kind of doughy, because when it's really ripe, the beards are out like this.
Oh yeah, it would probably shatter pretty easily too.
Right. Just go ahead and hang it up like this, and they'll finish drying.
Now this is millet, and that's something, if you've ever had a canary, you've seen it in the canary's feed. Might also see it in bird seed as well, but it's very decorative. This is something you could also grow, dry down, and use for decorative purposes. Then over here is rye. We're always preaching to you about sowing rye in the fall. This has been allowed to head out in the summertime and then dry down. Then here are some syrup sorghum. The heads of that are very decorative, and the canes of it are long enough that you could shock that up and put it out in front of the house and use for decorating for Thanksgiving and have something representative of the harvest. Now, in drying all these things down, of course, there are a lot of native grasses that you could also harvest and hang up to dry. And Norma, do you have any special tips for our gardeners on success in drying some of these things?
Well, mostly it's just put them upside down and let them dry. For those of you who are like me, I've got some old curtain hooks at home, and you put a rubber band around the things and hook them up with a curtain hook.
That's a good idea.
When I ran out of those, used a paper clip on these.
Okay, so just most anything would work. Also, with the wheat, for instance, it'd probably bleach out very nicely if it was dried in the sun. In the house, it might come out a little differently.
Right.
So you might want to hang them up in the sun to dry. But just use your imagination. There are a lot of things you can use to decorate and to make your home feel like it's an old farmstead and maybe be representative of the fall harvest, so you too can enjoy the bounty of nature. Norma, thanks again, and thank Bob for showing us around.
Sure will. Thank you. We really enjoyed it.
Good. We'll see you all next week.